All right, let's call the meeting to order. And we have to, Patrick, we have to add, vote to add in members. To make quorum.
Yeah.
Because Lynn and I are the only ones on the committee. Well, and Patty. So we have 3. Okay, all right. Roll call first.
Roll call first.
Okay.
Vote to add.
Roll call, please.
Member Cahill, Vice Chair Chaplin, Member Galassi, Member LaPlante,
Here.
Member Gustin,
Here.
Chair Rutledge.
Okay, so in order to have quorum this morning, I'll ask for to add member you and member Evans, sorry, and member Deacon Garcia. God, I'm going to be tongue-tied today. To our committee this morning. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome to the committee this morning. Thank you. I'm going to keep my remarks brief this morning. Just to say that our campaign sign recycling event was a huge success. We filled 2.5 dumpsters of campaign signs, and actually there's still a little bit of gathering going on. So if anybody has campaign signs they're still looking to recycle, let me know that. And we're going to talk about Christmas trees a little bit, I think, under new business. So any public comment?
Morning,
Okay.
everybody. Good morning. We're doing Christmas trees under new business.
You can talk about it if you'd like,
Okay.
if it's in your 3 minutes.
So you guys, Now Foods became the first business to recertify their earth flag. So they're the first business to get their earth flag and the first business to get their recertification flag. So that was really fun. Sheila, thanks for being there.
Mhm.
The pumpkin smash was smashing. Very good. Oh, bad, right? Too early, I know.
Yeah, especially today.
Well, and the weather was terrible, so we were really glad to get, we're at 220 tons so far. So there's 10 towns that haven't given us back the numbers, so that's really good. The cooking oil was really great too. We had 7 locations for the Saturday after Thanksgiving for people to drop that off, so that was really good. And the Christmas tree issue. So we always call all the towns before December, during December, to find out which towns have holiday light collection projects going on and where those drop-offs are and the dates. And we were calling about Christmas trees and what dates they were having people drop off the Christmas trees to be mulched. Only to find out that 4 of our towns have the same company, and that company is not planning to mulch or compost their Christmas trees. So that's a lot.
Landfill.
Yeah, send them to landfill. And not only that, but that does not include all of the unincorporated areas that would have that same company. So those, that's going to be a lot of trees that are wasted. So that's landfill space, and it's air quality concerns, and it's water quality concerns. So we're working with Sheila and Nick and Joy and I, and we're working with those 4 towns to see if we can find alternatives and what we can come up with quickly, or maybe get the business to change their plans. We only have about 5 weeks before people start disposing of their trees. So it's really a quick find out that we have to work on. So those are the new things coming up.
Thank you, Kate.
How many trees do you anticipate that could be recycled?
We are trying to figure that out. That could be composted, mulched. We're trying to figure that out. We're going by the populations of the towns. It's something like 18 billion trees across America. So it's a lot of trees. But the problem we have is we don't have any not unincorporated area numbers. We don't know how many residents in unincorporated areas have this company. So it's going to increase. We won't really have a good number because it's not just the 4 towns, it's the unincorporated area. So that is a trick trying to figure that out.
Because the bigger municipalities have wood chippers and they have their own equipment in public works. And if it's not a large amount, maybe that might be an option.
So when I talked to the Forest Preserve, they have a chipper too, and they'll help out if we can't move this forward to make the haulers more responsible.
Part of the problem is that their contracts just say what weeks they're going to
Pick it up.
collect the trees. They don't say that those trees are going to be mulched for landfill. They just say, so people, we tell people, take the plastic bags off, take the tinsel off, take the garland, the lights off so that they can be mulched. But we all assume by now that all the trees are being mulched, but they're not. So we're learning a lot with this little project. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Because it's the morning after, a very exciting evening. I can't remember the name of the charity, but there's a charity in DuPage and it delivers Christmas trees. Does anyone do that? I do that. Our family does that, where they will bring you the trees and put them up wherever you want the day after Thanksgiving. I wonder if there's a way to partner with them and to say, here's the front end, we will deliver them to your home, but the agreement is on the back end, you'll get a mulch afterwards. And I do think, speaking for myself, I'd be willing to pay an extra, let's call it $5, right? For the tree, if we could work something out and that would go into the cost of mulching them.
Go
Because,
one over, Cindy.
here you go. Thank you. Sure. Because there's a lot, it's in that program, that charity is growing exponentially every single year in DuPage County.
So if you can give us the name, Lynn, that would be.
I think it might be Natalie's Trees, but I'll send you the information.
Because that brings up.
Is that what it is,
another-
I
Natalie?
think so, I've heard of it, yeah.
That's what I think it is too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will send you that information, but maybe there's a way. And then if people knew that what they were doing was being charitable and environmentally friendly, they might even, bring their numbers up even higher. Because I think a lot of people would be willing and eager to participate.
Sounds like a good
And
charity.
then that brings up another point though, that brings up all the folks who live in apartments or condos, who, those haulers, right? So you brought up some good points here. So now.
Okay.
because Beverly
And
used to-
this is in flux right now. We're moving and we have a packed agenda this morning. So I'm going to move on from Christmas trees. Thank you. And one thing I was remiss is Patty and Cindy, welcome to the committee. I'm glad to have you here this morning. So thank
Do
you
you have
for
an
that.
extra agenda?
I will have that for you.
You have forum now, right? So
Yes,
we're-
yes.
Right, okay.
So thank
We're
you,
all
Lucy. And, next I'd like I'll ask for a motion on the approval of minutes from November 1st.
So moved.
Second, anybody? Can I have a second?
Can someone second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, parent committee approval. I'll ask for a motion on ENR 0013-23. Recommendation for the approval of a grant agreement between the County of DuPage and Choose DuPage to implement and manage sustainable DuPage in the amount of $97,500. Member LaPlante moved. Second.
Second, Guston.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, I'll ask for a motion on ENR 001423, the County of DuPage Solid Waste Management Plan 5-year update 2022.
So moved.
Second, Guston.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, a presentation on the DuPage County Unincorporated Waste and Recycling Hauling Study. You guys picked a really great morning to start out because we have a couple presentations of a lot of surveying and research that we've done for the last couple of months. So this is you, Phil.
Thank you. Well, welcome new committee members.
Phil, come on up here.
Okay. This should be interesting. Surveys are interesting. Next slide, please. So we don't have to go over, well, I'm going to make one small mention on this since this passed through committee. The solid waste plan has been issued for public comment since November 1. We received 4 comments on it. They were all supportive. From the Naperville Environment and Sustainability Task Force, who indicated they are working on similar issues. Sustained DuPage requested ongoing collaboration on composting issues. And the city of Wheaton really liked construction and demolition debris recommendations and the plan update, as well as the education videos. So I'm just, since this is kind of old business, I'll just say the county really does exercise leadership on solid waste planning issues. And the municipalities really look for some of that leadership on planning issues. So the next step on that will be to submit the plan to the full county board for adoption. Okay. So today I want to go over the draft of the unincorporated solid waste collection services. And for the new members, This was kind of a companion study to the solid waste plan update because there was not a lot of information on what types of services are provided to homes that are in the unincorporated areas. The objective here was to provide factual information to the county board for the county board to ultimately determine whether they want to pursue single hauler contracts in the unincorporated areas. So on this slide, I just want to point everyone's attention to the blue and orange townships. The orange townships have already implemented single hauler contracts for collection services. So what that means is the townships actually contract with one hauler to serve all the unincorporated homes in those townships. The blue townships are still on a subscription-based model. And a subscription model is where the individual homeowner contracts whichever hauler of their choosing to actually provide the collection service.
Which could result in up to 5 trash days a week in some of our neighborhoods. So Lake County has done this, and so I love that model and trying to bring it here to DuPage.
Next slide. So since there's new committee members, our scope of work on the consultant team was really 2 things. One, to do a survey of the unincorporated households so we can understand what type of services they're actually receiving. And then 2, to do some contract research for jurisdictions, either counties or townships that have already implemented the single hauler model. Basically to do a side-by-side comparison, what are the service levels and what are the pricing under each of these 2 service delivery models. Next slide. One thing that we thought was important, and I will thank Sheila and Joy because they attended every one of these meetings. We met with all of the 9 townships. The 3 townships that have implemented single hauler contracts were all very satisfied with the level of service and the service performance of their contractors. Those contracts have been in place generally for about 10 years now. It was also important to meet with the 6 townships that still have subscription-based modeling. In all honesty, it was kind of a mixed reception. I think there was support for this study, but none of those townships said we're going to pursue this on our own at the township level.
And well, to clarify that too, at the township level, they could do it, but it has to be by referendum. At the county level, we can do it by ordinance. So
Very important, thank you. That's in the sidebar, the blue sidebar. Yes, so townships have to do a referendum, county does not. Next slide, please. So part of the research for this study was a resident survey. This was done in conjunction with the county GIS department. I have to give kudos to Tom Rickers and Tamara Fryhat. They are top-notch on GIS capabilities. So postcards were sent to over 20,000 homes in the 6 townships. The postcard had a little QR code that residents could scan to access the survey, or they could access it through the web. We received, well, the report analyzes 1,429 responses, which is a tremendous response for this type of survey. It's over a 7% response rate. The survey was closed just a few days ago. I think we received about 30 more responses. Next slide. So when we started this effort several months ago, I remember one committee member said, do not come back with a survey that's not geographic representative. So we've met that requirement. The pie chart on the left just shows the distribution of homes in the 6 townships. So that's just the total number of unincorporated homes. And then the pie chart on the right is how the survey responses came in from each township. So we did in fact get a geographic representative sample. Milton Township is slightly overweight in the survey, but not much. Going to Sheila's point, there are 6 haulers that provide services throughout the unincorporated areas. Flood, Groot, and Lakeshore by market share are the 3 largest service providers, but Republic Waste Management and SBC also provide services. Next slide, please. So this was surprising to me. Again, one of the objectives of the resident survey was to see what types of services are provided in the unincorporated areas. Do they have access to all the services or programs that a Naperville or Glen Ellen or any incorporated area would have? And the answer to that is yes. 99% of the survey respondents have trash service. 95% get curbside recycling. 70% receive landscape waste collection. The 70%, that's even typical for a municipality. Some people just don't utilize that service. If they have a landscaping service, for instance, that hauls away. Each of those 6 townships have their own township-sponsored recycling programs. So they offer brush collection. They'll have one-day multi-material collection events. They're involved with electronics collection. Some of them are expanding into textiles collection. So between the services that the residents get through their hauler and the township-sponsored events, the unincorporated homes just have access to the same type of recycling service and programs that the municipalities would have. Also, residents tend to be very satisfied with their hauler service. Over 90% were satisfied with the service they're getting under the subscription model. 60% were very satisfied, 30% were somewhat satisfied. One thing the survey did identify, though, is that there is some confusion from the unincorporated homes on how to handle certain things, like if they have extra trash that won't fit in the cart, how do they handle that, or what to do with their appliances. So this is the cost reported by residents on the survey. And I'll mention this, residents had the option to upload copies of their hauler invoices. So we were actually able to verify the self-reported cost information by looking at the invoices that they uploaded. What you can see on this is there's a range of costs. This is going to be one of the benefits of a single hauler contract. Residents can pay over $100 per month. I'm going to step up to the slide first just to point this out.
Bill, would those be like horse owners that are having manure picked up?
They can be, but I wouldn't say that's
Okay.
true
Because I'm
for all
going
of them.
$100.
That's a wide variety for the same service.
The highest was 400.
No.
There, I will grant you, that's probably a larger, like a 1.5 yard dumpster as opposed to a car. But 75% of the respondents fall within what I call the central band, from $15 a month to $40 a month. 25% are paying more than $40 per month. This is just a function of the way these subscription services are charged. It is a competitive market. I mean, residents are free to call haulers and pick whoever they want. The reason prices tend to be higher for subscription-based model is the haulers aren't going to each and every home on the street. Sometimes there's a pretty wide gap between 2 homes they're servicing. And without that route density, the truck cost is the same. The fuel is the same. You're just spreading those costs over fewer people. So that's why you tend to see higher costs. Anyway, 75% of residents within the central band, that average cost is just over $27 per household per month. The average for all respondents, if you include that long right tail, the people who are paying more than $40 a month, is $38 per month. In reviewing the invoices, some customers are having fuel and environmental surcharges added to their bills. We're going to talk about transparency and pricing in a little bit. But those were material. In some cases, they were as much as $19 a month just for the fuel surcharge and the environmental fees. Next slide, please. So the second element of our research was to look at existing contracts. So for townships or counties that have implemented single hauler contracts, I would say historically, most unincorporated areas have utilized the subscription-based model, but that's starting to trend towards more contracted services, which is shown in this map. The orange townships are all township level contracts, meaning those townships pass referendums. The blue ones, which is primarily in Lake County and McHenry County, those are county-led initiatives. So we reviewed 11 of those contracts in detail for this project. Yeah, just to point out a couple of other things. Lake County is now completely single hauler service delivery in the unincorporated areas. Kane County is moving that direction. DuPage County has a good start on this. Referendums are not always successful. There were 2 referendums at the township level in King County last fall. One passed and one did not pass. Next slide, please. So the services under the contracts, like municipal hauling contracts, can have a range of services, but usually it's trash collection, curbside recycling, the landscape service.
And large hauls.
Yes, bulk items, yes.
stoves.
So I'm going to focus on cost because that's the most noticeable difference here. So this is the range of costs under the contract model is shown in the spread bar there. The first thing you'll notice, it's much tighter. It's much narrower band. Costs range from $19 to just under $28 per month under the contract model, with an average of $21.61 per household per month. Everyone can do that math. I wrote this in the report on purpose. I'm not quantifying the savings, the specific savings under a single contract model versus the subscription model. The reason for that is we won't know if the county moves forward what those prices are until RFPs are issued and haulers submit proposal. But based on this slide, can certainly conclude that there's one of the benefits of the single hauler model is that it can potentially offer lower costs.
And better service is my hope.
Uniform service.
Additional service,
Yep.
lawn-based. I've been unincorporated for 31 years. Nobody ever picked up my lawn-based. So.
Yes. So just on the findings of the study. So what this slide shows is just kind of the pros and the cons of single hauler contracts. So on the pro side, there's 6 haulers currently serving the unincorporated townships. So yes, there's reduced traffic and road damage and improved air quality under the single contract model. Instead of having 6 haulers driving through those streets, it would be 1 hauler under contract. Transparent pricing. you saw the wide distribution of cost to subscription homes. The range of pricing under the single contract model is much narrower. So there's a contract, the county would have an RFP which would specify the services. There would be a contract specifying those services. So it's much more transparent pricing and much more uniform service under the single contract model. We talked.
Got to hear from Greg, so if we can kind of move through a little
Yes.
quicker.
Lower cost potential. On the con side, this is probably the biggest issue for the county board. 90% of those unincorporated homes are happy with their service. So I think there will be some education, certainly presenting the results of this study going forward. So that they
There's a
understand.
variety in pricing. They may not even know what they're
Correct.
paying compared to the other.
Yes.
Right.
Next slide. Implementation. So I think the first step is whether the county would just take this on and do it themselves if they decide to move forward, or let the townships implement individually. I think that question has largely been answered because none of the townships during the interview said, we want to do this on our own, but that is an option that can come first. If the county opts to move ahead, we're going to have to, there's a draft RFP as part of the study. We'll have to finalize that and develop a implementation, public education and outreach plan, because that will be critical for gaining support from residents for this. Then issue the RFP, award contracts, and transition to the new service hauler. You can never rush this. This is probably going to be a 16-month process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What all you have this morning?
Yes.
Quick question.
Yes, Patty.
RFP, RFI, is it easier to do an RFI just to see what the numbers are from these haulers? Or doing an RFP, obviously do an RFP, you don't have to accept the RFP, you can just receive the RFP, and if it's too much money, then you just, okay, we decided we're not gonna go in that direction.
RFP is the standard way you would do this.
That's what you guys do, okay.
First of all, it is a common procurement method. There'll be a contract attached. If by RFI you mean request for information, just to
Yeah,
get
we do.
preliminary pricing, in my experience, you never get good results on that. You have to have a contract. The haulers have to have the incentive, oh, I could win this contract before they.
So they'll respond with a
Put
bid.
actual
Yes.
numbers
Yeah,
in versus.
we didn't have that problem,
estimates.
said, oh, gotcha, okay, perfect, thank you.
Go ahead.
So you said that this is actually going to be going before the board for adoption. Is that happening
Consideration.
for consideration? And when will it happen?
Good question. Conceivably,
In January.
January,
probably.
it may extend.
Too much
into
other stuff
February.
going on right now,
Right.
but yeah.
But will there be more time to review the study before that time, or will it just be before the public board that will be?
The review is in your packet, so yeah, you'll have to, and it's 50. Wait until you need a nap. Any other questions? Bill, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your work on this. Greg, I kind of skipped over you. I'm so sorry. You've got some words of wisdom.
Well, I know you already voted on it, but just real briefly, welcome to the new members, Greg
Uh-huh.
Bedloff from Choose DuPage. You voted on the Sustainable DuPage, $97,500 allotment to Choose DuPage, working in conjunction as we have with the Environmental Division, Joy Hins, who I know couldn't be here today. The easiest way to think of this, it was born in this committee previously, is an enhancement and an extension of the Sustainable DuPage program, which was designed to raise environmental awareness and all of the incentive programs and all of the cost-saving programs that are currently in the marketplace for corporate DuPage County, if you will. Things like green initiatives, green roofs, or I know Kay and the team at Scarce does a lot of it as well, CPACE and other programs. Sustainable DuPage took place in 2022. I know you have another meeting that you need to get to, so if you can just go to the next slide. That was a program to promote environmental sustainability, kind of again in corporate DuPage County. We worked in conjunction with Joy Hins and her team. Next slide, please. It kicked off in February of 2022, dedicated website for a toolkit that's available for all of the incentives, information and everything. We had a series of kind of lunch and learn meetings that were hosted each Thursday in April. So a series of 4 connected with the business community. I know member Rutledge and several of you were there. Really good traction on it. And the business community said, you know, how can we do more and who do we get in touch with? So I guess Joy and Warren in this committee came up with the idea of more one-on-one business to economic development organization contact on the programs that are out there, shepherding, concierge, that type of stuff. Next slide, please. We'll go past this one because I know that was just a sample of the invitation that we put out for last year. But so for 2023, the goals for this program are to continue to coordinate with Joy and her team to promote environmental awareness and sustainability. Next slide, please. But some of the differences this time, updating the toolkit, a certification program. And as I mentioned, we would either contract or hire a new employee at Choose DuPage whose primary responsibility would be interfacing with corporate DuPage County to make them aware of and take them through any environmental sustainability programs that may be offered at this point in time. So probably should have just shut up because you already said yes to it, but I wanted to hear something about it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have questions? Patty, go ahead.
We hired in Naperville, we hired a sustainability coordinator,
Mhm.
which is great. And they work with Nest and other organizations in the community. But it didn't do kind of the business end of it.
Yeah.
Which that might be a really healthy relationship to have, along with the fact that because Naperville has their own electric company, they have a grant program for solar panels and things like that, which would be very beneficial, I think, to businesses because quite a few put solar panels on and the grant program does help with that. So if you have someone you're hiring, are you going to be able to work with other
So
communities?
to be blunt at this point, Member Gustin, to be determined as to whether or not we physically hire somebody and bring somebody in or use contractual services.
Gotcha.
Because this is a one-year agreement. And as you can imagine, trying to hire somebody and saying, hey, we have funding for this for 1 year, you might not
Have a job.
might not have a job after a year, to be blunt. So we're thinking about, there's a lot of contractual organizations out there that do this kind of stuff. We utilize a lot of them already. We're thinking we may go down that route for year 1 and come back to you all and prove that it works. And then if it works the way we all think it can work, then doing something more permanent.
Thank you.
Lucy, did you have a question?
I have a question. Like, you mentioned like kind of liaisoning with corporate businesses. What about like small businesses, like restaurants? And I mean, there's a lot of them. So I don't know if it's worth the time or, you know,
Yeah,
paying
so
for your buck.
yeah, great question. Choose DuPage hosts a series of quarterly communities meetings where we act as a go-between between local economic development organizations, chambers of commerce, downtown management associations. We invite all of them to these meetings and we discuss these types of issues and offer our services to pass through to the smaller businesses.
Any other questions? Thanks so much, Greg. Always a pleasure. Let's see. Old business, I'll just give you an update that the RFP for the solar array on the 421A building is on the street, as they say. So early next year, we'll hopefully be able to pick that final contractor to we received a $50,000 private donation in order to seed solar on our roofs here. And if you'll notice, we have flat roofs everywhere. So I'm hoping that this is one of many, but hopefully that'll move forward. Any other old business? Any new business? Without objection, we're adjourned.